Now, I have the pleasure and honor to introduce to you Rick Rashid. So maybe I don't need to tell you who Rick is, but Rick founded in 1991 Microsoft Research. Hi, Rick. He is currently the Chief Technology Officer in the Applications and Services Group. So, Rick, you're on.
Great, thanks,
do you need
Jeanette.
a clicker?
I do, but
okay.
Not right now. Later. So, in December of 1979, I took a couple of graduate students out to see Star Trek the movie. That was the very first movie. And I was just a young researcher. I just started at Carnegie Mellon University. And that started a long tradition of me taking out people that I work with to each new Star Trek movie as they came out. And 2 weeks from Friday, I'm going to be taking out about 1,500 people to Lincoln Square Theater. I've rented out the whole theater. It's actually more complicated. I've done this theater thing many times before, but this is the first time I actually had to sign a contract with like the home office in Texas. So you can see it was kind of a large event for them. And so we'll have fun. Hopefully, I'll be dressed up in my Star Trek outfit. It's a Picard outfit, if anybody was wondering. And my wife will be dressed up in her skimpy skirt Star Trek thing, and we'll be greeting people as they come in. So it should be a lot of fun. People have asked, like, well, why do you do this for Star Trek in particular? I mean, there's a lot of other science fiction things, and we know you're a big science fiction fan. And for me, I think what has distinguished Star Trek in my mind in particular is this sense that, one of the Gene Roddenberry's fundamental, principles around Star Trek was that he viewed the future as sort of a positive, optimistic thing, right? It was this multicultural, optimistic federation that, had, exploration as its key mission. If you remember the mission statement for the original Star Trek series, it was to explore strange new worlds. So that was number one. To seek out new life and new civilizations. That was the second point. And the third was really the thing I think that has inspired a lot of people, which is, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And aside from the fact that that's a split infinitive, it really did make this point that this federation, this huge amount of effort was really about exploring. It was about discovering. And yes, there were dark episodes, there were war episodes, there were really silly episodes. But that sense of fundamental optimism about the future and what can be done, and the opportunity to bring many different races and many different peoples together in a common cause of discovery, that really was something that I always felt inspired me. And it was, I think, had a huge impact. They also had some very fundamental principles. One, for those, again, who remember the series, I don't know how many of you Star Trek fans are here, but there was this notion of the prime directive, the idea that they didn't want to interfere with races that hadn't achieved warp drive. So they would try to stay out of it. They didn't always do that, but they tried, right? Principles are about trying sometimes. And as I started Microsoft Research in 1991, I had my own mission statement and my own principles that I worked against. The mission statement that I created as I started the organization was also in 3 parts. The first was to move the state of the art forward in all the areas in which we did research. So it was fundamentally about exploration. It was about research. It's about pushing the frontier. The second was to take the things that we created, the ideas that we created, and work as hard as we could to get them out into products and to people. And again, that was really the sense of we want to create, but we also want to have an impact. The last part of the mission statement was really the only part that really specifically spoke to Microsoft, which was to ensure that Microsoft would have a future. And interestingly enough, I think more than most people probably realize, I've been here for 25 years now, a lot of what Microsoft is today, and to some extent the fact that Microsoft is actually here today, is because of the research and the innovations that have come out of Microsoft research over the years. So it really has had that kind of an impact and that kind of change. My key principle, sort of like the Prime Directive, was very much like what Jeanette and Peter have said today, was really not to interfere, in this case, not to interfere with our researchers in exploring the ideas and the things that they were trying to do. You know, it's very easy, and I think Peter made this point pretty well, it's very easy to start to believe you actually know what the future is supposed to look like, and you know what research is important and what research isn't. And that's a very bad fallacy that's easy to fall into. And so I always really looked at my researchers as an organization that really made its own decisions. I always had this principle that, you know, if you treat people like children and you wind up with children, and they behave that way. You treat people like adults, they behave like adults, they make their own decisions, they find the right areas to do research, and they constantly surprise you with amazing things. Now, 3 years ago this week, I know that because of Facebook, because Facebook put it up on my screen a couple of days ago. I passed on the leadership for Microsoft Research to the next generation of leaders. You've heard from Peter and Jeanette today. Harry Shum is sitting in the front here, heading all of TNR. And really, I think of the legacy that I passed on to the research organization. More than anything else, it was about the attitude about research. It's about the approach that you take in doing basic research in a company like Microsoft. And everything everybody has said today, I think, just reinforces that. Now, I have so that's my reminiscing. I have the pleasure of actually, my actual duty here, my work, is to recognize the achievements of some of the students and collaborators that we work with. And so I'm going to do that. One thing I'll say before I get into this is that a critical part of Microsoft Research from the very beginning has been to work with the academic community. We brought in a group of academics, a number of whom are here, sitting in the audience, to be our advisors in the very beginning of Microsoft Research. And we tried to work with the academic community. One of the programs we created fairly early on, really in response to what we heard from the community, was the PhD fellowship program. And the idea was to be able to support some of the top young PhDs and recognize the opportunity that they are going to be creating in the future by supporting their work. So every year for quite a few years, I don't remember how long it's been going, but it's been a long, long time. We've had each of the universities send in applications for particular students. Those are reviewed. The very best are selected, and that's where we get our PhD fellowship program. Here are some of the names. We also have created what we call the Women's Fellows Program, and here are some of the names of of women that are receiving those awards this year as well. And then over the last few years, we've created some competitions for students. The Open Source Challenge, which has seen dozens and dozens of student groups participating. Here again, you see some of the winners associated with that. And then most recently, we've created this thing called the Quantum Challenge to really tackle some of the newer problems in quantum computing. And you see some of the students associated with that. Now, with those names having been up on the screen, I'd like to have all oh wait, one more thing. I almost forgot. The ACM Student Research Competition. We've been supporting that since 2005. Over 2,000 students have been assisted through that program to date. over 200 this year. And I know 10 of those students are in the audience today. So all of the students whose names have been up there or involved in this, please stand up and be recognized. So these are the people that will be on stage in the future. So I also, this year, for our 25th anniversary, we wanted to recognize some of the faculty that have had a particularly significant impact on Microsoft research. We had nominations from all of our researchers, and from that we selected a list of 25 faculty. I'll sequence through the names here. Some of them are actually here. Many of them are my friends. And really without the support of faculty in the top universities around the world, I don't think Microsoft Research could have been able to do the things that we have been able to do over the years. So I want to thank not just these individuals, but all of you for the contributions you've made to Microsoft Research and the friendship and the collaboration that you've provided to us over the years. So I don't know how many of those people are actually here, but if you're here, can you please stand up and be recognized? Again, thank all of you, and thank all of you that are here for the Faculty Summit.